What's next, though? I mean, help us understand how the math changes with supply, because from Iran's perspective, we went from about 4 million a day, 3.5, down to about 2.5, and then they lifted the sanctions. It went back up to closer to 4, where it is right now. Where does that number go?
Yeah. Well, I think that from May the 12th, we'll see the imposition of secondary sanctions again, and countries need to be in compliance with those secondary sanctions by November. If you look at what happened the last time that sanctions were imposed, we saw Iranian production and exports drop by 600,000 barrels a day. Now, if you think about that in terms of an annualized amount, it's over 100 million barrels a day in inventory decline. So it is a very significant number, and it will push oil prices up unless other adjustments are made to the market.
Neil, I want to take a bit of a broader look at the component and the role played by Iranian oil production as part of OPEC. This is one of our GTV charts, and you can see in the shorter term, you can see this sort of moderation being reflected alongside the cuts that we've seen from Saudi Arabia. But you stretch out this chart, and we actually have seen quite a bump up when it comes to production. How significant is this, and how do you imagine, as this all plays out, how the other OPEC members will react? Because we know Saudi wants closer to 80, Iran wanting closer to $60 to $65 a barrel.
Yeah, well, you've seen Iran really ramp up production and ramp up exports in advance of this announcement. I think if you look at April exports from Iran, it was the highest we've seen for many years. As the cuts start to come through in Iran, I think the big question is, what does OPEC, what does Saudi do? Now, remember, OPEC have announced 1.1 million barrels a day of cuts. If we see 600,000 barrels a day of Iranian barrels taken off the market, I think the big question is whether or not Saudi will step in to make up for those volumes. The next OPEC meeting will be at the end of June. And I would imagine, given the close relationship that we've seen develop between the US and Saudi, and comments from Trump about oil prices being too high, there will be some pressure on Riyadh to compensate for any loss of Iranian volumes taken off the market.